Anyone who had red-eye disease as a child knows that once you make eye contact with an infected person, you get infected too. Over time, the virus mutated. Not only do the eyes turn blood red, but the infected become more irritable and bloodthirsty. Their brains are driven by the instinct to kill, much like zombies. Derek was originally a lawyer at Vanda Corporation. He worked diligently for 2 years, but instead of getting a promotion or raise, he was unfairly blamed by his boss and ultimately fired. Derek, of course, wasn't happy about it and decided to confront his boss. But what he didn't know was that his boss had already been influenced by Kara, his superior. As expected, his boss didn't listen to Derek's explanation. As soon as he returned to his office, the termination letter from HR was already on his desk, and the security guards immediately came to escort him out. Just as Derek was about to be kicked out of the building, a fully armed military unit suddenly arrived outside. The soldiers quickly herded everyone who was leaving back inside, and then the quarantine team sealed off all the exits. It turned out that the ID7 virus, also known as red-eye disease, had broken out here. The quarantine team began releasing a neutralizing agent through the ventilation system, but to completely clear the virus, it would take at least 8 hours. According to a new ordinance passed in Florida, anyone infected with the virus who commits acts of violence will not be held accountable. The number of infected individuals inside the building was still unclear, which meant that for the next 8 hours, this building would be a lawless zone. As time passed, people inside the building started to show symptoms of the virus. Derek stood in the lobby, feeling completely lost, when suddenly a colleague who had a grudge against him, with bloodshot eyes, rushed at him and began punching and kicking him. The violence triggered the virus inside Derek, and a surge of aggression overwhelmed him. He felt an uncontrollable urge to kill. Fortunately, his friend Ewan appeared just in time to stop him. However, under the influence of the virus, Derek became extremely agitated and decided to go up to the 9th floor to get revenge on his boss. By this time, the building had descended into chaos, with the infected starting to kill each other. Derek quickly took the elevator, intending to head straight to the 9th floor, but he found that he didn't have permission to go up. Furious, he started shouting at the elevator, unaware that his boss on the upper floors had already seen this scene. His boss, also infected, took control of the elevator and sent Derek directly to the basement level. Still raging, Derek continued to scream, but the elevator doors suddenly opened, and several men in black quickly dragged him into the underground warehouse. Before Derek could even react, the men began to beat him mercilessly. Clearly, Derek's boss wasn't satisfied with just a beating. He ordered his men to break Derek's bones. Just in time, Derek's friend Ewan arrived and engaged in a fierce struggle with the men in black. But, in the chaos, one of the black-clad men shoved Ewan, and his head collided with a nail. By the time Derek looked up, he saw Ewan coughing up blood. The sight of a death only seemed to excite the boss even more. He ordered his bodyguard to knock Derek out with a punch and lock him in the warehouse, intending to torture him slowly. When Derek finally regained consciousness, he found a woman standing in front of him. Her name was Melanie, a client of the company who had been deceived and was now seeking justice. The security guards, fearing she might cause a scene, had locked her up in the same place. Since Melanie had seen Derek working at the company before, she immediately approached him with hostility. Before Derek could say a word, Melanie spat in his face. Now in a state of heightened rage due to the virus, Derek wasted no time in retaliating. After a brief but intense fight, both of them suddenly realized they shared a common enemy. Just moments ago, they had been spitting insults at each other, but now, the two of them were forced to team up. Melanie had also been infected with the red-eye virus, and now was the perfect time for revenge. Derek managed to pry open the warehouse in the basement, and the two of them began searching for weapons. Hammers, wrenches, a small chainsaw, and anything else that could be useful. They even armed themselves with an automatic nail gun. At this point, there were still 6 hours left before the virus neutralization would be complete. The company building had 9 floors, and from the 6th floor onwards, access required a keycard. The keycard for the door between the 6th and 7th floors was with the HR supervisor, Lester, while the cards for the upper floors were controlled by their boss, Kara. Their immediate target was Lester. So, the two of them quickly agreed on a plan and headed for the 6th floor. The 6th floor was also in chaos. Upon spotting Lester, Melanie immediately fired a nail gun at him. Lester narrowly dodged but quickly ran back to his office. Derek charged the office door with a cart, and just as Lester called for backup, the guards arrived and stunned Melanie with a taser. Derek threw the cart at the guards, using the distraction to slip behind cover. The confusion worked in Derek's favor. He launched a surprise attack on the guards from behind. At this point, Lester thought he was safe and stepped out of his office. Upon seeing Melanie lying on the floor, he kicked her without hesitation. Melanie struggled to grab the nail gun, but Lester quickly kicked it away. To his surprise, the nail gun landed right in Derek's hands. Derek immediately kicked open the door and, with an air of confidence, asked, "May I come in?" Under the threat of the nail gun, Lester reluctantly pulled out the key card. But just as Derek reached for it, Lester made a sudden move, grabbing a pair of scissors and stabbing them directly into Derek's palm. Melanie was also knocked to the ground by Lester, who then grabbed the nail gun and aimed it at her. Fortunately, the shots missed, landing on the floor. In the struggle, Melanie pulled a chainsaw from her bag and gave Lester a chainsaw massage, taking him out in the process. Afterward, the two of them successfully got their hands on the key card and decided to head to the 7th floor to find Kara. At this point, the boss started to panic. He ordered Kara to destroy the key card while simultaneously placing a $500,000 bounty on Derek's head. Kara, always sitting on the fence, feared that if she destroyed the key card, Derek might kill her out of anger. So, she prepared for both outcomes, telling her secretary to hide the key card while she and a few henchmen tried to intercept Derek and Melanie. Seeing that Kara wasn't cooperating, Derek and Melanie had no choice but to take more aggressive measures. After a fierce struggle, the two of them finally made it to Kara's office. It was Kara's betrayal that caused Derek to take the fall for everything, which eventually led to his dismissal from the company. Derek, seething with rage, almost wanted to kill her on the spot. But since the key card was in her possession, Derek was forced to temporarily compromise, promising not to harm her, for now. Kara ordered her secretary to hand over the key card, but to her surprise, the secretary tossed a piece of scrap metal instead. It turned out that the boss had already bribed the secretary. He had seen through Kara's indecisiveness and promised the secretary that, once everything was over, they could replace her in the company. Furious, Kara tried to strike back, but the secretary showed no mercy, stabbing her repeatedly until she was a bloody mess. With the key card now destroyed, they were unable to reach the 9th floor, so the two could only comfort each other. In the heat of the moment, Derek had a sudden idea. He quickly pulled up his pants and rushed out, heading straight for Neville, the IT manager. Neville and Derek were close friends. Derek asked Neville to use his hacking skills to break into the computer of Irene, one of the company's female shareholders, and copy a massive amount of confidential company files. Irene, desperate to retrieve the million-dollar data, had no choice but to negotiate with Derek. However, Irene had her own agenda, and as a result, Derek didn't get the key card he wanted. The negotiation fell apart. The boss had already gotten word from Irene, and just as Derek was about to leave, he was blocked by bodyguards. Irene took the opportunity to ambush Melanie, grabbing her and slamming her against the wall a few times. Meanwhile, Derek was no match for the bodyguards. Though he managed to stab one in the arm with a screwdriver, he was quickly pinned to the floor. Just as they were about to spray him with pepper spray, Derek opened his mouth, caught the spray, and sprayed it back into the bodyguard's eyes. On the other side, Melanie managed to subdue Irene. Just as she was about to finish her off, Irene revealed a secret. The key card alone wouldn't get them to the top floor. They also needed a passcode. If they wanted to continue, Derek would have to leave Melanie behind. It was clear from their earlier fight that Irene held a deep grudge against Melanie. In order to move forward, Derek knocked Melanie out with a punch and quickly tied her to a chair. Melanie cursed him out, calling him a traitor, but Derek remained unmoved. After a final kiss goodbye, Derek was sent to the elevator by Irene. As the elevator started, Derek flashed a strange smile. It turns out that while he was tying Melanie up earlier, he had secretly unscrewed 2 of the screws on the chair. By the time Irene realized what had happened, Melanie had already managed to escape. Derek finally arrived at the top floor, only to be greeted by a beautiful woman with champagne, and the entire board of directors was there. The boss immediately threw a contract at Derek, offering him a chance to become a partner in the company if he signed it. Without hesitation, Derek rejected the offer. Seeing that the soft approach didn't work, the boss dropped the act and grabbed a nearby baseball bat. Derek, in turn, picked up a wrench, and the two engaged in a brutal fight. In the end, Derek had the upper hand. He directly punched the boss and sent him flying from the 9th floor. The shareholders were in awe of Derek's strength and all signed a petition for him to become the new partner. However, Derek declined. Instead, he signed the contract on behalf of Melanie, ensuring she received her fair share. Derek, however, had other plans. He was headed to New York, the so-called City of Death, to find Meg and Negan.